to the new trucking standard brought to you by the Federation of Professional Truckers. We're here to rebuild the industry from the driver's seat through real talk, shared stories, and straight up education. Glad to have you rolling with us. Now let's hammer down. All right, welcome to part two, folks. Got Cupcake of the North Band here on leadership. If we can get Matt to stay silent for about a whole 5 seconds during this one, I will be impressed, since he talked about he wants me to bring out some of our plans and stuff that we have here. I've got a list to try to keep myself on topic here, folks. Promise. Do the best I can with that. The only other struggle I have here is keeping Matt quiet for 5 seconds so I don't chase that bird dog. Okay? So, or I should say I don't chase that bird as me being the bird dog. So, anyway, so there's another one of those squirrel moments. So, moving along. All right. So, one of the things that we at the FOPT are trying to do is we don't want new legislation. We talked about that in a couple of our other episodes about there's no point in really going and expecting Washington to fix our problems. What we do want to see Washington do, or what we want to see happen, is a repeal of those things. We have a lot of people that talk about the broker transparency side of it. Really, going through and putting caps on brokers and stuff like that isn't going to really do anything for you. So it's really not, because if you still don't know your operating costs, you still don't know if you're getting taken to the cleaners either way. So, I mean, 6 1 half a dozen another there. Whether you want to repeal it, and there's nothing really there to repeal. Could they maybe change some of the language to where that it stops the capability of signing away the rights? Yes, but at that point, you're going to have to get into the 49 USC 13102 definitions of what has to happen there, and the 14101. So there's a lot of change, but that is more of a repeal. We also would like to see, like, some of the nonsense that you see in the FMCSA's, the data queue, getting some of the nonsense laws, or maybe better education being put out there for some of the LEOs. I'm sure everybody's seen the video from a few years ago that Mother Trucker did, and it went through Facebook and TikTok land like wildfire, of the gentleman sitting there waiting to get his tire fixed. He's in line. He's sitting at the truck repair shop waiting to get his tire fixed, and he still gets issued a citation for that. That right there is the most nonsense I've ever seen in my life. To be cited for having an issue with your truck that you're waiting in line to get repaired, and especially it being a tire. Like, tires get nails in them. Guys and gals run retreads. They blow, they delam all the time. The vulcanizing compounds they use and don't do well, they're gone. So, that's where we would like to see some of this, the outdated nonsense, and some better education for the law enforcement officers going forward. Especially, because let's be honest, a lot of this CSA that has been done to remove the experienced trucker like Matt, myself, Lily, Pablo, Laura, that are in our group, all of us, almost 30 or 30-year veterans out here. And I'm not saying that we're the only ones out here, because we've shaken hands and we know a lot of other people in the industry that have been out here for just as long, if not longer. I just came from a group that there's a guy in there, old Art. He's been doing it like 50 years, I'm not going to lie. The guy's been trucking longer than I've been on this earth. So, a lot of respect for that guy, to be out here for 50 years and doing it, that says something, and to still be doing it, but he's one of the ones, like Matt and myself and Laura and everybody else, that they want to get rid of. So we want to see some of that repeal of that CSA, so that they, Because what we need out here is we need that experience. Because with that experience does come good leadership. Because you cannot, we don't ever see a general leading an army or an admiral leading a navy that's only been in the army or the navy or the marines for 2 years. You don't see that. You have to have some experience. Why? Because you have to have made some mistakes and learn from those mistakes along the way. Because every good leader has is going to be able to sit in front of you and talk to you about, man, I mess up on the daily. I mess up on the daily. I don't know why I mess up on the daily, but I mess up on the daily. But I don't ever really repeat that same one. Sometimes they get a little, you might have to learn your lesson twice to really kind of figure out the lesson that needs to happen with it, you know, but you're not constantly repeating that problem. And that's why we want to, you need to have that experienced trucker out here because let's face it, you know, the median age, I think they said is somewhere still in the high 40s for a trucker right now, and we're getting older, and obviously we're not getting as many of the younger guys and gals coming into the industry to replace us. And eventually we're going to either medically we're going to get disqualified, which that's one of the other reforms that we would like to see is like some of this nonsense that they have is just absolute. Bigger guys like myself, I'm 6'2", 275 pounds. I've got like 14% body fat, but they say my BMI is through the roof. Well,
Right.
yeah, I lifted for years. I mean, I enjoyed lifting weights. I bigger and bigger and bigger. You know, but does that mean that I can't drive a truck because my BMI is this high? This is one of those things we'd like to see repealed as well. But this is where back to the there with the CSA, and we want to see some of these medical qualifications and stuff, and some of these point systems moved around. So we're working on, like currently right now, I'm just going to put it out there. Matt and I are currently working on an hours of service exemption, along with changing around for making paper or ELD, however the carrier would like to do it, how they would like to record their hours of service. And we have looked at potentially and maybe making some hours of service changes as well. Let's just be real honest here. Everybody's heard me talk about my old lady and the fact that she's in the medical industry, and one of the things that she does focus on is sleep studies. And the one of the biggest things that she gets on me all the time about is my sleep schedule, and that's what she worries about. And she has her and I have had a lot of talks about it, and she has she cannot wrap her head around why on earth we have so many different hour segments and not just like a 14:10 clock or a 15:9 clock or a 16:8 clock. And in that way, during that 14, 15, or 16 hours, you do whatever you need to do. You come to work at 7 o'clock in the morning. If it's a 14-hour clock, you got till 9 o'clock at night to do whatever you do. Now, do we agree that there should be somewhat of a half-hour break in there? I do. I will say that I do believe there needs to be a half-hour break in there because one of those things I will say, and this also comes from conversations with my old lady, who's obviously in medical. When you sit still for that long, they're actually finding that sedentary behavior is worse for you than smoking cigarettes. There are a lot of studies that have been out there. You don't believe me? Get with me or go to Google. I mean, y'all have smartphones, but y'all aren't that smart sometimes because you literally have the world's information at your fingertips. It's just a matter of using it to look it up. So, either that or if you're struggling with it, come to us on part of the education side we talk about. But anyways, you sitting for lengthy periods of time, it's not a bad idea to, get a driver to get out of the seat for 30 minutes. Go walk around. You know, this nonsense of trying to drive 14 straight hours, it just doesn't work. I see I've done it myself, so I'm guilty of it. You get on a tear, you get rolling, and you're looking at the clock, and you're trying to get this, that, and the other done, and so you literally, I've seen guys do it where they use a bottle to, you know, use the bathroom instead of stopping the truck and getting out of the truck. So, but one of the things we, would like to see done with that hours of service is to bring more of a circadian rhythm, so that you've got 14 or 15 or 16 hours, and do what you need to do in that. At that point, and this is my opinion, but at that point, if we put it, we'll say, we leave it at the current 14:10. We get rid of the 11 hours. You keep the half hour break. You do a 14:10, and then it's 7 to 9 every day, 7 to 9. Everybody's working. So, or if you start at 6, you start at 5, whatever. You got 14 hours. So, and then somewhere in there, you have to take a 30-minute break after being on duty for 7 hours. It splits it up, So you only get 7 hours, and then you got to take a half hour break. So use that. That would make trip planning a whole lot easier for drivers. That would make, the sleep schedules so much better for drivers. Because right now, let's be honest, if we do the 11 and the 14, and we'll just say you have 2 or 3 really good days of back to back to back running, and you're stopping at like 10 hours and 45 minutes or 10 hours and 50 minutes or whatever. Well, and you've done a little bit of a break in there and here. So you're not doing, we'll say you're only doing like 11 hours and 45 minutes. Each day you're backing your start time up on that 10-hour break. So, you start at 7, and then you might get to like, 6, and then 5, and then 4, and then 3, and then 2, and then 1. And so now you're trying to go to sleep earlier and earlier and earlier, and your body's not used to that. Unless, some of us need more sleep than others. Some of us don't. It's whatever, but there is a circadian rhythm that needs to happen there. So that's one of the other things that we've looked at with the hours of service exemptions. Moving on, one of the big ones that we were talking about, and Matt and I just talked about this right here before when we were getting everything ready for the podcast, is trucking schools and the reform of trucking schools and the education side there. And him and I, we have differing opinions on this, and we're going to try to come together with, I guess you could say, everybody in the group here, to get everybody's input on this, so that we can, because we're going to be getting input from women, from men, from immigrants, in all aspects, because we have a very diverse group. So we have people from all different, mindsets that can bring their opinion into this and try to do it. My opinion, and I'll let Matt talk about this here in a minute. My opinion is we need to remove the 5-week schooling right now, and not really remove the 5 weeks, but extend it. Maybe would be the better way to say it. I think currently right now, before a man or woman is issued a CDL, they should have 10 to 12 weeks of schooling. And this is where we get into true schooling of what goes on out here in the real world. Not where, when we look at this now, where you go in there, you sit down long enough to pass the written test, to get your air brakes, to get your, your combination, all that stuff that you got to have, all your different endorsements. You sit down, you do that for 2 weeks, or a week or whatever it is. You go, you pass your permit test, you come back, they work on you how to pass your pre-trip inspection. You do a couple of weeks on the yard, at the same time, as far as like backing maneuvers. And then you're doing a week driving a truck. And it's 5 weeks, and the school says, hand me $7,500 to $10,000, and I'm sure there's other different numbers that people are getting for those schooling costs. But on average, from what I've seen, it's $7,500 to $10,000 for 5 weeks of schooling. And I don't have an issue with the price so much because, well, let's just be honest, putting somebody that's never driven a truck before in a truck and sending them out on the road is a very dangerous action, because you literally are, yes, you have an instructor sitting in the passenger seat, but let's be honest, things happen fast. And so, yeah, insurance costs, I'm sure, are through the roof for some of those, to cover those students for a lot of those schools. But I do think we need to go to a 10 to 12 week. And the reason being is we need to have it to where the ladies and gentlemen that are coming out of these schools, they can do proper trip planning. They can pull out an atlas and they can actually get themselves from anywhere in America to another point in the continental 48. Okay. Not going to worry so much about the Canada and Mexico side because of that's a specialty thing. And not everybody is going to go get a passport and things of that nature. But I will say we do need to trip planning. We also need to, you need to start learning how to, they need, in my opinion, they need to bring into the schooling, everybody needs to be certified on how to adjust their brakes.
Agreed.
And everybody should have to be able to get underneath the truck and adjust your brakes and check your brake adjustment.
Right.
Everybody should also understand the difference between a self-adjusting slack adjuster and a non-self-adjusting slack adjuster. I don't think they're teaching those things in schools.
They're not.
You know, I think they just teach
lacking.
the.
They're lacking in a lot of things. I drove it by. I drove. We have a Swift down the road from my house. It's a terminal for them, and you could see out in the back corner is their driving education section. I don't know how many times I've driven by there while they're holding class, and there's 7 or 8 people sitting at a picnic table while one person is backing up a truck. This is the opportunity for an instructor to, even if you have to add an instructor, to pull them over to a parked rig, pop the hood, and say, "Listen, this is what this is. This is what this is." Climb under it, take a look. Ask questions. What is that part? What does this do? This is knowledge that you should have long before you get on the road, like you were saying. This is including the map skills, map reading skills, and the trip planning. One of the regulations right now with FMCSA is the fact that ELDs are in place. Now, you and I are both I think, on the same page with that, where we believe that because paper logs are still allowed to be used in emergency situations when your ELD goes down, we should be allowed to be able to utilize either one. If a mega carrier, small mom and pop carrier, whatever, decides to use the ELD, that's fine. But an owner operator shouldn't be forced to use that if they choose to use a paper log. It's cost. ELD is when it initially started, it was more of a punishment for those carriers that didn't comply,
For,
and now they're
let's just be
punishing
honest, it was
everybody.
for Werner.
Oh, I know.
Yeah, it was
It's
for Werner.
exactly where it came from. Whether they want to own it or not, DOT was under heavy fines with Werner. Werner developed the ELD to get back into good graces of Department of Transportation, and basically it was a self punishment in order to keep their authorities. Uh, ELD should be looked at as a punishment only use. Now, does it have benefits? Absolutely. And I'm chasing a rabbit here, but the paper log, and this is where I was going with the school. Most of these new students that are coming out are taught how to use an ELD. It's very simple. Usually, as long as you can do a little bit of simple math, it's very simple to use. But when that ELD goes down, the law states that you must have paper logs in your truck while operating an ELD, so that if that goes
8
down,
days.
you're allowed. You have to have the paper logs in there so that you can continue logging. You can't just drive down the road with a broken ELD and no logging.
Yes, but
If
you can't go past 8 days though either.
Oh, no,
Like the other law is
and
this. You
we
have
need
to
to fix
use
that
that to
problem
get
too.
in there.
We need to fix
Right,
that
right.
problem. Now, you have to be able to do an ELD. Now, if you can't understand English and you can't read and write, how are you filling out an ELD within the United States of America? That's almost an impossibility.
And that was one of the
and
things I
and
was
the
about to go
training,
into with the
yeah,
schools.
and the training is absolutely necessary. That there is so much lacking on the training and the school side, and the education bar should be brought to a whole new standard. By doing so, we're aiding in getting ourselves moved from unskilled to skilled labor, which I'll let you take that from there.
Well, and this that's one of the things that I've got here on the list is literally, and we need to start this at the state level. Um, Nothing is going to get done if we do this at the federal level. I mean, it's proof positive, And some of the more highly visible political things that have happened in the last 10 to 15 years. Um, Gay marriage. Look at gay marriage. It started at the state level, and after so many states said, you know what? These people do have the right to get married and show their love for one another. It's, so we need to remove this. And as more states got it, and that number climbed higher and higher,
Right.
it forced the federal government's hand of going, okay, now we have to recognize it. It's like the marijuana recreational laws right now. You know, there are more and more states that are legalizing the recreational use of marijuana, which this is why we're starting to see the federal government, the talks of removing it from the Schedule One drug list, because they know that at some point the 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 scales are going to go more to the state side and less to the federal side,
Right.
and they're going to have to be forced to make a decision. Because if you've got, what to say, if you've got 2/3 to 3/4 of the United States, of the states in the United States, I should say, that are saying, hey, this is how we want to operate.
Right.
you know we all talk about majority rules as far as the voting goes.
Right.
Inside the Senate and the Congress, it's 2/3 to 3/4 votes. So
Absolutely.
it's the same way with the state. And this is why we need to push the states, and the states need to come down. And I truly believe that the states need to come in, and they need to start bringing. I would like to see the trucking schools be moved more over into the vocational side.
Absolutely.
And one of the things I say about this is because I have and I know there are probably some people out here that are going to come at me sideways about this, but I'm going to stand on all 10 toes, as they say about this, what I'm about to say. I have no problem with an 18-year-old man or woman driving a truck across the United States. If an 18-year-old man or woman can go defend the United States of America in some country thousands of miles away from their family, why are they not capable of operating a commercial motor vehicle with proper training?
Well, there was a time that
There's
was
no
allowed.
difference, right? But this is where I was going with this. So if we move this more over into the vocational schools, and we start, allowing the 18 and 19 year olds to drive a truck,
Hmm.
then with better schooling, we'll have better drivers, you
Absolutely.
know,
Agreed.
and you'll have more qualified. If we go to that 10 or 12 weeks of schooling before they go to the carrier, and this is where I was going to go with that was that once you get done with that 10 or 12 weeks and the trip planning and so on and so forth, you go through, and you then, let's make it let's make it like what you would do for like a pipe fitter, a plumber, an electrician. I know a lot of these are more the union type trade terms or whatever, but apprenticeship program, and then, everybody, you can go to become a pipe fitter and they'll put you through their apprenticeship program,
Right.
or an electrician, they'll put you through the apprenticeship program. And then once you finish the apprenticeship program, then you're a journeyman, you
Right.
know, and do it the same way with the trucking. We have apprentice drivers, and while you're an apprentice and during your apprenticeship, let's do stages. Let's say stage one is going to be that 10 or 12 week schooling. That's where you're going to get your permit. You're going to learn, and let's remove the automatic restriction. I want to see the automatic restriction gone. I don't have a problem with automatic trucks. I have a problem with the automatic restriction. And the reason why I have a problem with the automatic restriction is they've literally made it harder for truckers that work for these mega carriers that have nothing but automatic trucks. They're making it harder for them to leave, because a lot of the smaller carriers that are out there are still driving trucks, and all they have are manuals.
Right.
They don't like automatics. They don't like the fact that, like, I have a manual. If my starter goes out, but I can turn my key on, I can put a hook out front, get somebody with a chain, drag me, pop the clutch real quick, and get it started. And
Yep.
I can go. I don't have to make a road repair call.
Right.
I can then literally, if I've got some tools, which is also, this is one of the other things we talk about, you move into that training as well, is learning the simple things. I'm not saying we have to teach these men and women how to rebuild a C-15 in the middle of a field in Nebraska because it broke down.
Right.
But maybe learn how to replace a belt. You lose a belt, replace a starter, simple things like that. Because if you go through, if your starter goes out, you leave the truck running. All you have to do, drive yourself to a Freightliner or a Fleet Pride or Peterbilt, whatever your truck is. I don't know. We all know the different
Yeah.
models that
Yeah.
are out there,
Yeah.
but drive it over there, and then you can literally fix it. I mean, you literally go down, you unhook some ground wires off your battery, and it's a couple of nuts and bolts. Pull the starter out, put the new one in.
Yeah.
Now we no longer having a road repair call.
Right.
I mean, most of your road repair calls out there, it's like a 3 or 4 hour minimum. And these shop rates are getting to $200 an hour. So
Yeah.
you're looking at an
That's normal business
$800 bill
hours.
minimum. Yeah, that's normal. Well, any road repair call, though. I'm just saying, they're doing a road repair that I'm
Oh
seeing
yeah.
4 hour minimum. It doesn't matter what time.
Yeah.
So you're going to pay somebody 8 hours minimum or $800 minimum to
Yeah.
come out and change a starter. When you could do it, you could get, put a hook in the front, get pull started real quick, and drop your trailer if you need to, whatever you got to do, pull start real quick, get over there. It's going to take you maybe an hour to an hour and a half to change a starter.
All right.
You know, keep some tools on your truck. I keep tools on my truck. I got basic
Yeah. So do I.
ratchets, sockets, wrenches. I've got adjustable wrenches. Now I will tell everybody, this is a little segue real quick. If you are a single truck, independent carrier, owner operator, lease purchase, whatever, I highly recommend. Now, I like Milwaukee. I'm a Milwaukee guy. You don't have to buy Milwaukee,
That's
but
right.
I highly recommend a half-inch impact cordless, a 3/8 impact cordless, and an impact driver. One that you can put like a Phillips bit in, Torx bit, whatever.
Yep.
You know, all 18 volt. Keep a charger in the truck as well. Make sure you got an inverter or whatever so you can charge your batteries. Because I'm going to tell you, those half-inch Milwaukees, I know, will pull the lug nuts off of a wheel
Oh yeah.
all day
Yeah.
long.
Yeah.
But I'm also going to tell you this: if you blow an airbag, like I did a few months ago on my trailer, you know, instead at the time, I left my half-inch impact at home. That was a very, very bad move on my part. Not even going
Yeah.
to lie,
Yeah.
but I did. So I was under my hopper bottom with a 3 foot half-inch ratchet, and I'm trying to get the nuts off of off them top studs, off that airbag. And when I got done, the back end of my elbow and stuff from hitting that wall, every time trying to get those off was beat up. But I highly recommend you keep these things. But anyways, back to where I was at, the training side of it. We need to bring that in. We need to do the stage one like I talked about. Stage two could be where you're going through and you're working for a company. Most likely it's going to be a mega carrier, and this is where mega carriers do have some use because they have the capability, because of the financial side, to be self insured, to be able to pay for your training. Okay. A lot of I mean, someone like me or Matt that's just a single truck operator, we couldn't afford the insurance to train a driver.
No.
Let's just be
No.
honest right now. It's the rates aren't there, and it'd be hard enough to get contracts to do that kind of moving. But use stage two, and during that stage two, that's a 6 month process.
Right.
You know, maybe and maybe split that up into an A and a B. Like stage 2A, you've 3 months with a trainer, you and another driver, another trucker that's got experience. And I'm going to say, in my opinion, it's somebody with a minimum of 5 years, and they have to have driven in the winter, in the snow, in the ice, in the rain, in the north, in the south, the east, and the west.
Right.
They can't have just ran back and forth across Illinois and Iowa on nice, beautifully flat ground that's
Right.
only got a few nice little rolling hills. No,
Right.
you need to have been, all over. You need to have been, whether you're running the Poconos or the Adirondacks or the Appalachian or the Rocky Mountains. You need to have
Right.
been covering these mountains because each one's a little different. And then, so that's your 3 months there with that one. So there's 2A. Now 2B, you're out there by yourself, and you got 3 months there. And then during that 3 months, you are going to be critiqued on how well you handled yourself out there on the road by yourself. You know, you're going to, I mean, are you having accidents? Are you having tire blowouts due to them not being inflated? Are
Right.
you doing proper pre-trips and stuff?
Right.
You know, monitoring all of those aspects. And then during those first 3 months, and I know a lot of people's probably going to come at me sideways on this one. I highly recommend having driver-facing cameras during those first 3 months.
Right.
Are you on your phone? Are you dicking around doing a bunch of other stuff other than what you're supposed to be doing and looking in those mirrors and paying attention to what's going down the road?
You got both
So
feet up
there's
on the dash while your cruise control's on.
yeah, yeah. I mean that don't work. You know what I mean? Because if so bad happens, yeah, and it kills me when I see that in the wintertime. Like I see
Yeah.
these guys and gals running down the road sometimes, feet up on the dash. You can tell they got the cruise control going. The snow's already started to fall.
Yeah.
You could see the slickness is starting on the road, and it's like, I don't really think I'm gonna pass this guy. I'm not gonna lie, I back off and get behind him,
Right.
and I try to keep a good following distance. But
Right.
that's the other thing in that 2B part. What's their following distances like?
That's
But
driving.
this is where we also need to. This is where we also need to have people that are monitoring this stuff and talking with these apprentices once a week.
Yeah.
You know, every Friday you got to check in with your mentor. We'll say everybody
Right.
they got to have a mentor, and that mentor can be over 10 or 12 drivers.
Right.
They can take that time to review all this stuff, and that's the training side. And then stage three, that's when you're into you're starting into your journeyman. This is where you've been able to there, and now you're out there doing your own thing. So you know
Well, see,
that's just some of the aspects of the training side that we talked about. So
and this is where we're lacking in. Again, we're going to go back to leadership. This is where we're lacking in leadership. Uh, we have right now Department of Labor, which classifies us as unskilled labor. They believe that because we don't have a college degree, we aren't skilled labor. Okay, that's the reasoning. That is the thought process behind the Department of Labor. The problem is that the truck driver never stops learning. Uh, and the situation as it is now, the leadership that we have is not looking at the situation and going, listen, the standards are dropping for the schooling. We're seeing more and more individuals come out on the road unprepared by the schools, and Department of Labor is visually seeing the amount of these individuals that are coming out on the road that aren't properly schooled, that aren't properly trained, that are white knuckling it down the road because they haven't had enough time in there to get the experience. And Department of Labor is justifying their decision as, we're going to keep trucking as unskilled because look at the numbers right now. The numbers are telling us that the schools aren't teaching properly. They're not learning anything on a regular basis. They're maintaining this low level, this low bar that the schooling is set at. By raising the bar and by extending the schooling system and providing the stuff that you just talked about, what we're doing is raising the bar to the point where Department of Labor has to look at it and go, wow, okay, the bar is raised. There's higher education levels. There is, like you said, the different categories that you're going to be in, starting with, you know, basically a rookie out to status, what we
apprenticeship
call
program.
apprenticeship, what we call a greenhorn. Uh, you're
Yeah.
starting there and working your way up now by providing that. We're showing Department of Labor, okay, now we're building these programs to increase education. Yes, they're walking away. They're not walking away with a college diploma, but they're walking away with certification stating that they've done this education, they've done this, and they've done this, and they've done this. That bar now goes to skilled labor. Now, what happens then at skilled labor? At skilled labor, what you see is an increase in pay raise, uh, an increase in pay rates. for a company driver. They are no longer going to be able to, nobody will be able to sit there and go, hey, listen, we're going to pay you 34 cents a mile for the next 5 years because, you're not really skilled, and it's going to take that long for you to get that kind of skill under your belt. So that's your rate for now. And after 5 years, we'll review and we'll bump you up. Well, actually, in year one, you're making 34. In year two, you're making 37, and you're bumping up. Once they move it to skilled, that 34 starts at 37 instead of 34, or it starts at 40 instead of 34. You're pushing new agendas, not for one individual, not for a personal agenda, but for the entire community. And that's what we're trying to get across. That's what FOPT is all about. The leadership has to change. All the stuff that he's
Mm-hmm.
talking about we have to raise the bar. It has to go all the way to the top. And these are just a few of the things. Again, I'm going to go back to shutting up. Take it away, Cupcake. I mean,
So moving on from there, which I mean we've given quite a bit of an idea there on the schooling side, and there's more to it, but I'm trying to fit everything that we're wanting to do here in an hour and maybe an hour and a half. I don't know. I'm trying to keep myself on my list over here to keep the
right.
squirrels down. So you know, um, moving on to that though, insurance reform. Um, we're trying to find, and this is one thing Matt and I have talked about as well, the insurance reform. We keep hearing a lot of times these threats of this 2 million, 2 million, 2 million, 2 million. So let's be realistic here. One of the reasons why this $2 million keeps getting talked about is the nuclear verdicts that keep happening inside the courtrooms. And the reason being is because the attorneys see, or well, the ambulance chasers
Yeah. Yeah.
see the dollar signs. They know what a trucking company has to carry as far as insurance goes. They, excuse me, they also, when it comes to like these mega carriers and stuff like that, they know what, how much they're worth.
Yeah.
Because let's be honest, most of them are publicly traded.
Yeah.
And so they file a 10K every year. And, so everybody knows what the value is.
Oh, yeah.
And I mean, you could do the math just to know what the value of a company is because the average truck right now, we'll say is, I think it's like 150,000 right now. And
Right.
we're saying that because of all the older trucks on the road
Yeah.
and all the newer trucks. We
Right.
have a huge spectrum right now. You have trucks that are
Absolutely.
being 250 to $280,000 for a brand new rig. Depending on what you spec it out. I
Absolutely.
know somebody's probably going to try to argue with that one, and I'm like, look, dude, just if you spec everything out on it, and I've seen
Oh, yeah.
it, it's you could go 250, 260, and then there's some of them that are being bought for $10,000 and $12,000 down here.
Well, you're
These
also talking to
used
super
trucks.
sleeper. Some of these super sleepers are going for $500,000 a piece.
Well, and that's it. That's where some of that goes is you got
Yeah.
these ones with the big condos, the ones that the 330, 350-inch wheelbase trucks that's got queen size bed and a toilet
Yeah.
and a shower and everything else.
Yeah.
That $500,000 rig, you basically got a house on wheels,
Right.
or as my old lady said when she got to see the inside of one down at Matt's the one year was, it's tramping.
Yeah. 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 Yeah.
Trucking and camping. So
Yeah.
you're tramping, is
Yeah.
what she called that. So got a good kick out of it. So did the lady that was working for Renegade. It was pretty funny. But anyway, she's like, they really have those, don't they? She's like, I've always seen them on the road. I've never seen the inside. And I was like, yeah, it's you're camping and trucking all at the same
Yeah.
time, if you
Yeah.
will.
Basically.
But anyways, you take that average number of 150. You look at a mega carrier and you go, well, they got 1,500 trucks, or somebody like Knight that's got 67,000 trucks.
Right.
You know, just in the amount of trucks, and you do the math on that 150, and let's be honest, most of your mega carriers, they're keeping them 3 to 5 years, depending on the warranty plan that they buy with, and
Roll
they're
'em over.
gone. That's it. They're rolling 300 to 500,000 miles on those trucks, and they're gone. And I see and hear this though out of a lot of carriers that have anywhere from 50 drivers to the massive, Knight, Swift, JB Hunt, big
Right.
conglomerates. They're
Right.
all trying to do that. And The reason being is let's be honest, the emission system screws up a lot of this stuff on here, and that's one of the other things that we'd like to see repealed is this nonsense emissions that doesn't work. You know, because the last time I checked, when you put poop in something, poop's going to come out the other end of it. I don't
Basically,
care how much you filter it. I'm just going to ask anybody out there real quick. If I were to go through and I were to tell you that I want you to drink out of this tube, and I'm gonna put a filter in the middle of this tube, and I'm gonna pour urine and feces in the top of it,
yeah.
and I want you to drink the liquid that comes out the bottom. But I promise, it'll filter everything out of it. I promise. How many people are actually going to drink out of that tube? I know I'm not.
No, I'm not. No
Exactly,
way.
because
No.
you cannot get rid of it. It's still there. Why do you think we had to have a regeneration, a
Right.
regen? Because it has to clean the filter out. The filter's still got all the junk in it.
Yeah.
And just because you're burning it doesn't mean that it goes away.
Nope. You
Well, this is the
regen
whole
and
reason
push
why
it
we
right
got
out the
rid of
stack.
this is why we got rid of the incineration centers for
Yeah.
trash. But we'll just burn it off. Well, then they figured out, well, it's still going into the atmosphere, burn off.
Right.
What do you think happens when it comes out this filter? It might be stopping all of this stuff, but it's still got to come out at some point.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
and the amount of energy that it takes to to build the precious metals that go in there. So, anyways, back to the insurance side of it. Rabbit hole. Elmer Fudd over here, Watsky Wabbit.
Well,
So,
what we have too is, in the insurance side, and I don't see a lot of leadership really taking this on. As we see an unequal balance. We see right now it's $1 million minimum on a truck. That is enough to cover just about anything that happens with a rig, with the exception of you driving it through, a 20-story building. Uh, that covers about everything. But what we see out here on the road is not an equal. You and I have talked. We know the history of trucking. We know why the interstate system was built. The interstate system was actually primarily for commercial traffic and the military. That's what the interstate system is supposed to be designed for. We now have to carry $1 million policy, which covers anything that happens or occurs within an accident.
well, 750,
Yeah, well,
seven hundred
I
fifty
used to
thousand is the
I
minimum.
used to carry I used to carry
Everybody
yeah.
carries $1 million.
Um,
Everybody does.
but what we're seeing is an unequal balance. Okay, the truck driver, which is the target, and we're held responsible for anything that happens on the highway, is held to a much higher standard. My personal vehicle, I'm lucky if I've got $50,000 on that car, to cover anything that happens with an accident. But yet, that $50,000 does not cover the amount of damage that car can do if it stops short and puts a truck in a ditch. We have to, it's like triple or quadruple the times of work and the effort and the time to get the money to get our trucks fixed. And 90% of the time, let's face it, folks, a truck is in an accident and it's car related or the responsible of the four wheeler, we will never see the amount of money back that we need to fix these rigs. It's going to come out of our own pocket or out of our own insurance to get it done because they don't have the coverage. It's an unequal balance across the trucking
Well,
industry, and we don't see
so
anybody talking about this.
so some of that is this. And let's be real honest here. People are not paid a living wage.
Oh,
Okay,
absolutely not.
I'm going to sit here in front of everybody and tell everybody that I'm a fortunate person. I'm fortunate enough that I'm able to make enough money that I don't carry the state minimums on my vehicles.
Right,
If I get
right,
into an accident, and the reason being is my insurance agent brought up a very valid point to me. If I, God forbid, were to get into an accident with, we'll just say like a brand new Dodge 3500 HD dually,
right.
that truck's like $100,000 brand new off the lot. And
Absolutely.
I think that's just a basic model. I don't think that's
Yeah,
like four wheel drive or Laredo or any of that stuff. That's just a
right.
basic model. And I could be wrong on that price, so please don't come for me in the comments on that. But we'll just say at $100,000, the state minimums in my state of Ohio wouldn't even come close to covering that truck.
Right.
If I were to accidentally hit it, or we'll say I blow a steer tire or something breaks in my suspension, I veer over, I sideswipe this thing doing, I don't know, 45 mile an hour, and I rip the fender and the doors and the bedside right off of this thing, mess up the Nerf bars and the all the wheels and the tires and everything on it, mess it up pretty good, and then that guy or gal goes down into the ditch, and then they basically rip the front axle out from underneath
Right.
it. And we'll say they just bought the truck. So it really hasn't depreciated because maybe they've only put 30 miles on it.
Right.
You don't know the situation. But if it's $100,000, they could come back at me personally and sue me. Now, with me being a business owner and things and owning a house and things like that, I have to look at that. Yes, I'm fortunate because I have some of those things. I worked really hard throughout my life to change my life around from what it was years ago to what it is now. I'm not, people that
Right.
know me from my past know that I was a very terrible person. We'll just put it that way. And thank God that I have brought myself back around. But when you go through and you can't, your insurance cannot cover that. They could come back at you personally.
Yep.
They could sue you personally. And a lot of people are like, well, you can't get blood from a stone. This is true, but what they can do is that attorney can file for garnishment of your wages.
Yep.
So, and there's a certain percentage, depending on your state's laws and things of that nature, that they can garnish up to a certain percentage of your
Yep.
paycheck. And they can file for that. And then that garnishment goes to your employer. And now you're paying that until all of that money is paid back.
Right.
That restitution, a lot of, it's bing, bang, boom. It's just the whole way up. So, and it's, that's where we have to look at. That's one of the reasons why we have what we have. Because, but this is where the leadership comes back in.
Yep.
The leadership that is paying these ladies and gentlemen that aren't making enough money while they are making enough money. And I'm not talking about the small mom and pop businesses that
Right.
are just like you and I, that's got like 5 or 6 employees, and everybody in the business is, they might be making $40,000, $45,000 a year. Their employees, mom or pop that owns the business is making maybe 100 grand.
Right.
Okay, well,
Right.
yeah, they're making double, but they've also got double the risk. You
Absolutely.
know,
Absolutely.
do I believe that these CEOs, while they're, like the Jeff Bezos and the Bill Gates and stuff, that are, on their way to being trillionaires, that's ridiculous. Okay. That's ridiculous. There's a little too much, and that's part of that leadership problem. You know, I understand you've taken a lot of risk to do some of that, but at the same time, when your people are struggling to pay their bills and
Yep.
they can't even afford the proper insurance
Right.
to be covered if they were to hit the owner's car.
Right.
Your employee cannot even afford the insurance to raise their insurance premium, to raise their coverages so their premium goes up. They can't even afford that insurance premium to where if they accidentally hit the owner's car, to make sure that the owner's car is covered in their insurance.
Well, and
Like
welcome to
that
Troy
is
because I
the
mean,
lack of fucking personal responsibility that these leaders that we talk about
right.
do not have.
Well,
They
and
aren't
none
even
of them.
responsible enough to freaking pay their people enough
Yeah.
money to where if they get in an accident with and hit the owner's car, they can't even cover the owner's car.
Well,
Like,
and
I mean,
well, here's the thing.
wow.
We we have a lot of narrative going on inside the trucking community. We have narrative about a driver shortage. It doesn't exist. There's actually more drivers than we actually need right now. We have a narrative about pay scales. We have a new narrative now about autonomous trucks. We have narratives, and if you start watching, and ladies and gentlemen, really step back from TikTok, step back away from Facebook. Let me tell you what, it's going to be an eye opener for all of you. We have a narrative that's been pushed for 2 months or 2 decades or longer about a driver shortage. We haven't seen Rate increases really seen a steady rate increase since 1980. We're running off 1980 prices inside trucking, and we have been for a long time. We have leadership that are pushing stricter hours of service. We have uh, micromanagement is at an all-time high for truck drivers. We have sleep studies. We have, all this stuff is starting to accumulate. And if you start looking at the path from 20 years ago and how it's leading, let me tell you what. Anybody who says autonomous trucks is the future is just bullshit. What they're going to do is replace you. They're going to replace you. They're going to replace me. They're going to replace Cupcake out here with these autonomous trucks. What you don't understand is this. That is literally, they are trying to find a cheaper way to do this. This is our leadership in the trucking community. We hear a lot of it. We hear it out of Duffy. We didn't hear it out of Duffy not too long ago. He talked out one side of his face with a WIDA, and the very next day he had an interview and was talking autonomous trucks out the other side. We are hearing this from all over the place. They are pushing a narrative. They've been pushing it for 20 years. This has been the notion. Look at the history of the United States of America. Look at the history of trucking. It has not changed. We are no different. This is a same cycle crap. Beginning in the United States, we started looking at cheap labor. Building of the railroads, Chinese. You went from we had, and apologies again because this is a repeat from first episode. I'm going to repeat it anyway. We had the African Americans that were treated as slaves, cheap labor. We upped that. Once that was dealt with the Civil War, we brought in the Irish during the potato famine. They were used as the next cheap labor, and on and on and on and on. This is the trucking industry is utilizing the same fashion as the country is utilized by cheap labor. They are now looking at the illegal immigrants, and they are looking at the non-English speaking. They're bringing them
Well,
in
it's
as cheap
anything that they
labor to
can.
fill
Yeah.
seats that aren't actually needing to be filled. And here's the deal:
Oh,
we're going to push these people out. This new $2 million policy, this ties in with the narrative, folks. The $2 million policy, along with this new OT or overtime for truckers deal, what it's going to do is it's going to shut down all the mom and pop or small mom and pop organizations that are out here, all these small carriers. They're not going to be able to afford this. Not on the rates that we're making now because the rates have been pushed so low at this
well,
point.
so
So
let's talk
you got
about
the
that though.
whole
Though.
narrative, and it's leading on to autonomous trucks, and the autonomous trucks are not the answer. What we need is better leadership in the industry to build the bar and throw these autonomous trucks right where they belong, right in the ditch.
So the thing of it is with the constant. If you look back, anytime that they start talking, or the leadership starts talking about, you know, trucker shortage, trucker shortage. Every time, if you go back and look at the data,
Mm-hmm.
there is a correlation between rate increases
Yeah,
and they talk about trucker shortage.
right,
The reason being is it's the same thing that happened when they started going and saying, oh, well, if you go to work, then your family will have this much more money.
right,
And removing the single income household, by doing that, by bringing in all these extra workers,
right,
you drove the wages down.
right,
The reason being is because there's more people going for that same job than there was before.
right,
So because you go from 10 people to 20 people, we'll say, going for that same job, well, now you don't have to worry about offering it to so and so for, $10. You
right,
can offer it for 8. Why? Because this other person over here will liable to be able to take it for $8 because they either don't know no better or they have that type of situation,
right,
you know. And they figured that out when all that nonsense happened there, and we can put them to work. You
right,
know, we can pull
right,
them out of the house and put them to work. And we're gonna say that, a stay-at-home mom is a demeaning position. We're going to demean the position of stay-at-home mother.
right,
No, a stay-at-home mother is one of the most wonderful things in the world. It
Absolutely.
really is. And the reason being is because they are making. Do you know how freaking hard it is to make a home? And
Oh,
I'm not talking about build a
my
house
wife
because I own
tells
a
me my
construction
wife
company.
tells me all the time.
Build it, make a home.
Yeah.
You know, my old lady she says the same thing. Without her, I wouldn't have a home. I'd have
Right.
a house, but I wouldn't
Yeah.
have a home.
Right.
You're damn right. She's the what makes it my home
Yeah.
because,
Absolutely.
and that's that is the beautiful thing about it. But what they did was they brought them in because why? They have the same. They are almost identical, just a little bit of difference in plumbing parts.
Yeah.
They got the same intelligent minds. They got the same fingers and toes
Right.
and legs and feet to stand on. You
Right.
know, to be able to go and do some of these jobs. Because let's be honest, there's not a lot of heavy lifting that has to be done on an assembly line.
Right.
Most of that is robots and cranes and stuff. Well, you could put you train anybody. Well, we need to use the crane and we move this over here and then we bring it down. You know, and then you're going to take this impact gun over here and you're going to attach this, and this right here. You know, or no different than anybody can learn how to build a home, be a carpenter, or anybody can learn to be a plumber. Anybody can learn to be an electrician.
Right.
You know, but by bringing that in, it's the same thing in trucking. Every time the rates start to come up, it's a trucker shortage. Because the last time we had a really good rate increase was COVID.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
And the rates started to go through the roof. And
Yep.
that's, well, basically we had a gold rush. So they, trucker shortage, and everybody come, woof, and then
Yep.
they allowed everybody in, boom, because you don't have to be able to speak English because of
Right.
Obama's memo that he put out.
Right.
You
Right.
know, it's just a memo. We can bring anybody in. Well,
Right.
what happens there is the shippers see, oh, well, this works out because they're going to put some of them put 3 and 4 people in a truck. The poor truck doesn't ever stop, you know, and it go, and because none of them, that's where they're all living is in that truck. They don't have to worry about house payments or any of that because a lot of times they're migrants, not immigrants. They're
Right.
only going to be here for a 6-month work visa and then they're out the door. They're back
And,
home.
and let's
You
make
know what I
something.
mean?
Let's make something real clear, and to all of those that aren't truck drivers. Okay, I'm talking to any one of you that might not or have a trucker in the family or aren't a trucker themselves. I'm going to tell you bluntly, the rates that we're talking about right now can be downwards of 80 cents a mile. Uh, you're still going to pay the $7 for that item at the store. It doesn't matter if the truck driver is being paid 80 cents a mile or $2.20 a mile. The only one getting rich off that item is the actual manufacturer.
Manufacturer and shipper. Yeah.
Okay, they're
Well,
the
and let's
ones.
talk about that.
So it because, and that's an understanding that everybody out there needs to have. We
Well,
talk about rates on a regular basis, but the actual consumer doesn't realize that $7 that you're paying for a gallon of milk, the trucker didn't see that. They'll blame the trucker, but it's not the trucker on the trucker. The trucker only got paid $1,200 to haul, a $50,000 load pay to Walmart, but they're making $150,000 because they're charging you $7 a gallon. You need to understand that the trucking community isn't seeing any of this at all.
well, and when you get into these lower rates are basically it is spot market. And
Right,
so for to just a little brief thing that I'm going to get back over here because my next thing I was going to talk about is broker transparency and kind of where our plans are to go with that. So this
right,
kind of rolls into that. So the spot market are loads that the normal contract carrier will not move.
right,
They have went to the contract carrier. The contract carrier says, "No, I'm not moving it for that." Why? Because it's not profitable for me to move it at that.
right,
Well, this is what they say they're wanting. This is all because sometimes some of these shippers and stuff or the consignees might say, "Well, that shipping's too much. Like I don't want to pay that kind of price for it." So what they do is they say, "Okay, we can accommodate that." Instead of having Knight or Swift or CR England, whoever their normal contract carrier is, they put it out on the spot market. And then what happens a lot of times on this spot market stuff is it's not so much the brokers that are keeping the money, It's the freaking carriers cutting each other.
Yeah.
I've seen it happen.
Yeah.
I've talked to my broker friends that have watched it
You're
happen.
absolutely right. You're
They
absolutely
will
right.
go through, they will put that load out there for $3 a mile, and before you know it, six other carriers have cut the carrier before them in half
Yeah.
and said, well, he said he'll do it for three, I'll do it for 250.
Right.
I'll do it for two. I'll do it for
Right.
$1.75. I'll do it for $1.50. Before you know it, like you say, it's down to $1.20.
Right.
Which I don't know how anybody's making money at that, because those are late 80s, early 90s
Yeah.
rates.
Yeah.
At the fuel prices
Absolutely.
that we are today, and at 6 miles to the gallon, you're somewhere, if you're, well, and I have good fuel cards. So like I just got a fuel for $3 a gallon, but the pump price was $3.89. But
Right.
anyways, at when you're looking at that and you're doing 6 miles, it's like 50 cents a mile
Yeah.
just in the fuel.
Yeah.
If you're supposed to be keeping 30 cents back for maintenance, and then we'll say another 30 cents for truck payment and insurance payment,
Yeah.
what are you paying yourself?
Not
And
a
you
damn
haven't
dime.
even gotten into any of your permits or
Right.
any of that stuff, your licenses, your apportion plates.
You're paying
You
them
know,
to pull their
if you're
You're
dragging
paying
it through
them.
New York, you're not paying your HUT fees. If you're
Right.
dragging it through Kentucky, you're not paying the KYU, or Connecticut or New Mexico. You're not able to pay any of that.
Right.
You've literally, you've went bing, bang, boom, 50 cents and 230s, bam, that's $1.10 right there. You're not paying yourself anything. You're not putting any money back. You're not doing you're not paying yourself any money. You literally hauled that load for free.
3-day
You
run,
know,
you didn't make a dime.
yeah. And the thing of it is if you were to be working for a company, you wouldn't haul a load for free.
Right.
I don't know anybody that works for CR England or anybody that works for JB Hunt or anybody that works for Knight that goes in there every day, or Prime, or any of these carriers or any of these company guys and gals. I don't know any of them that say, you know what, today I'm just going to give you guys a freebie.
Right.
I'm going to go to work and you don't have to pay me for this day.
Right.
If you were to go to, and the thing of it is, if you were to go to any one of those company drivers and you were to say, well, we're not going to pay you today, they'd look at it, excuse me?
Yeah.
Then I'm not driving.
Yeah. Your truck's not moving.
But then you see this out of these single truck owner operators and carriers and stuff that do this all day, every day. So to move forward, though, from that, getting along with this, broker transparency and stuff, one of the, there's a lot of talk about capping the brokers. We need to cap the brokers. We need to cap the brokers. We need to cap the brokers. And there's a 3% thing out there, and there's, a couple others out there. Actually, if you want to stop the nonsense, education,
Yeah.
you need to go through and you need to know your operating cost. That's
Right.
all there is to it. If you know your operating cost, and I mean a true operating cost, I'm talking, wanting to know exactly what it takes to run your truck and to pay all your personal bills.
Right.
Because you know as well as I do, Matt, we're both independents.
We're,
The money that we make pays for this truck and that trailer. It also pays for our house and our car and the water bill and the electric bill and the gas bill and the phone bill and the cable bill and the food bill and the medical insurance and all of that other stuff.
Right.
So, and if you're out here as a single truck operator and you don't have medical insurance, I really don't know why. Because I've got it. It's very easy. You go to healthcare.gov, fill out the information. They even help you pay for your medical insurance.
Right.
They will give you deals. They will give you breaks based off of your income. And
Right.
it's adjusted every year as you go through and you fill out your 3195.
Right.
And, all that stuff, it's adjusted. So if you don't have medical insurance, I don't know why. But, go through and know your true operating cost. And that's to pay you as well. If you cannot pay all of your bills and all of your business bills, all your personal and your business expenses,
Right.
and put money in the bank for a profit, why are you hauling the load?
Absolutely.
And the thing of it is this: a lot of people don't understand this. You need to move the rejection rate up to get the freight rate to go up as well.
Right.
If the broker cannot move the load, the broker has to go back to the shipper or whoever it was, if it's being double brokered or whatever the case is, and go through and say, hey, I can't move that load. I know you said you want it moved for $2 a mile. I can't get it moved.
Right.
Nobody will move this thing. Nobody's going to move it. And of course, it's also like I said in the other one. A lot of people talk about, well, we should be able to see it, but they want us. They have us waive our right. And if we ask for it after that, they'll blacklist us. Like I said in the previous episode, if everybody asks for the information,
Right.
they can't blacklist every carrier that they work with. Yeah, they can try to go get others, but if you go through and somebody like TQL, one of the largest brokerages in the United States, or I can't say Landstar because Landstar actually is fully transparent. So I can't say Landstar. That's one thing I actually can commend Landstar on is that they are fully transparent. So, but TQL, they aren't. If you were to go through and if everybody were to go to TQL and say, I want to see the original,
Right.
what is that? 15, 20, 30,000 carriers?
Right.
If everybody were to go through and say, I want to see it, and TQL says we're blacklisting all of you, well, are they moving freight tomorrow? No,
Nobody's moving.
they're not moving
Well,
any freight. So
but we also
it's
got to
literally
remember.
they're gonna basically, as they say, you're kind of shooting yourself in the foot, as the saying goes,
Well,
is
we
what
also
they're
got to
doing.
we got to remember too. People use these things as an emotional response. Uh, Illegal immigrants or non-English speaking is one they use for an emotional response. It's a numbers build-up game. Right now, broker transparency is a big one. We both know it. A lot of groups out there are pushing broker transparency, but they're not actually they're not seeing short term, long term, or anything in the middle. They're just pushing for it. There's no real solutions. The solutions that they're coming up with are literally ridiculous. There's no thought in them. It's an attack, and they don't. There are good brokers. You know it. I know it. There's actually good brokers out there that don't take any more than 13 or 14 at the high end percentage. There are good people. You're attacking the good. And you're holding everybody accountable for bad actions from bad people. That's why the trucking community is so frowned on. You're doing the exact same thing that everybody else does to us. You're using it as an emotional response. You cannot use an emotional response. Any leader
What's funny to me,
that's or supposed leader that's telling you that they're going to attack the broker transparency, they're going to go after the non-English speaking, la da 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 da, all the things that create an emotional response within the trucking community. I'm telling you right now, they're not legit. They're
no,
using you.
and that's the
They're
thing.
using you for a numbers game, to push a personal agenda, to climb up the ladder. That is what they're doing. It is not anything more than that. If they really had solutions, they have to look. There is a research setup that you have to go through, a whole research. You have to backdate brokerages 25 years ago. Look at every step they've made. Try to figure out who the good ones are and fix the bad to meet the good. Same with
Well, you want to
trucking.
fix the bad ones? I'm going to tell you right now. You want to fix the bad brokers? You know the easiest way to fix bad brokers?
Just say no.
This is where the one. Well, there's that, but the worst brokers that I'm hearing about are the ones that are overseas. The
Absolutely.
easiest way to do that is this. And I know we said we don't really want to bring any more legislation, but this is one that I think we might want to actually think about doing. Make it to where any company that has a DOT number,
Hmm.
because I say that because they're talking about removing the MC. Okay,
Yeah. Yeah.
so that's why I'm saying DOT number.
Yeah.
Everyone that has a DOT number, it has to have a unique address
Yeah.
and phone number, and it must be inside the United States of America. We
Absolutely.
should not be allowing brokerages and dispatching services from India or Pakistan or China or even England or France or Spain or even Mexico or Canada, in my opinion. And the reason why I
you
say
can't
this
even
is
get a
this
driver's
is
license in the United States without proof of living address.
I'm aware of that.
Yeah,
But
you have
what
to
I'm
show a
saying
credit
is
card bill with a unique address.
you
You have
have
to
all
show
this.
them. So do the same thing.
Well, you have all these ones that are on the outside, and they're calling and they're wanting to say, oh, we got these loads, we got these loads. But
Right.
unfortunately, a lot of them are the bad actors that
Yeah.
are doing the double brokering, and they're stealing the freight.
Yeah.
And literally sometimes stealing the freight because they're sending their guy or gal in with a fake DOT or MC or whatever it is,
Right.
going in, getting the load and gone.
Yeah.
Or they're saying that they're this because they've hacked somebody's computer or email.
Right. Right.
They're saying that they're this DOT number and going in and leaving. Now, I understand the hacking sign is a little different than the other, but
Right.
if you go through and put it and say that only dispatchers and brokers can be inside the continental United States and
Right.
they must have a unique address and phone number. And by saying unique means it has to be different from everybody else.
Right.
That DOT number has to be different from everybody else. The thing of it is with this is now you also are going to stop these mega carriers from brokering their own loads.
Yep.
Because see, that's right there where you talk about some of that. See, this is the thing that kills me on some of the broker transparency where they talk about this 3% or whatever. How is it? Oh, it's not okay for the 10%. It's not okay for 15%, but it's perfectly acceptable if you sign on as a lease and they take 15 to 20%.
Right.
I don't hear anybody talking about that.
No. No.
I don't hear anybody complaining about the fact that, well, I went for the work for this company and this company's taking 15%, because I leased onto them. It's the same thing. They're doing the almost exact same thing
They're doing
that a
it
broker
exactly.
does for me. When I call a broker,
Exactly.
if and there's brokers I deal with, like I've said, I deal with some really good ones. One of them I'd love to bring on our podcast here because he's a
Right.
wealth of information, especially in the bulk industry, which is what I'm in. But he also has dabbled in the reefer and the dry van.
Right.
But anyways, when you go through and I call him, he gives me this is the load. I got these loads in this area, and they're paying this amount of money. If you're leased on to Joe Blow or I don't know, ABC Trucking or whatever
Right.
it is, and you call into there and you lease on and you talk to that one's doing the same thing. Well, we've got these
Absolutely.
loads, and well, this load pays this much, this load pays this much, and this load pays this much. Because not all loads pay the same.
No.
Not all loads are, so it's the same thing. It's not okay for a broker, but it's okay to be leased on for that. Why is it okay to be leased on at 15%, but it's not okay for a broker to take 10 to
Well,
15%?
and
Because
that's what
let's be honest here,
that's what
brokers
we're
are
lacking.
their operating margin is 4 to 6%.
Yeah.
And this is where the leadership problem we have is because they haven't done enough research a lot of times
Right.
to look and see what's going on.
Right.
Because you're never going to get rid of brokers. Let's
No.
just be honest here.
No. They're here.
Brokers have been here since the beginning. Okay.
Yeah.
If you don't believe me, do some of your own research. Or I think I've wrote an article about this
You did.
that they've been around. They
Yeah.
were called freight forwarders back in the day.
Freight forwarders. Yeah.
After deregulation happened, they became brokers at that point. There was really right before deregulation, there was a few brokers, but
Right.
not too many. After deregulation, it opened the door for that.
It
And
exploded.
let's be honest, a lot of these buyers and merchandisers for these shippers and manufacturers, they don't want to mess with truck drivers because we have a lot of unprofessional truck drivers. So they don't want to mess with them. They're like, I'm not getting cussed out by this asshole over here that doesn't know how to act like an adult.
Right.
I don't want to deal with it. So what do? They go through, they reach out to a brokerage like TQL or Landstar or whatever,
Right.
a larger one, because they need somebody that's got a mass of trailers and drivers to help cover their freight.
Right.
And they reach out to them and they say, hey, look, we move somewhere, we'll just say we move 150 loads a week
Right.
out of this facility, and this is where we are at on a price margin. Can you make this work? And that broker will either say yes or no. And brokeraging, and this comes straight from Justin's mouth when him and I were talking here a couple days ago, it's also like gambling because sometimes he'll take those loads and he'll make out like a bandit. And then other times it'll take him a month to get the load moved
Right.
just
Right.
because it either can't find people in the lane that are moving that lane that week or that month or whatever, or the rate just isn't very good. So, and other people in that lane are moving things at a lot better rate,
Right.
So you're never going to get rid of brokers because, and the other issue is laziness on the
Absolutely.
side of the shippers and the manufacturers. Because I know of one company, not going to say their name, I worked with them for a while, and then they made some changes and so on and so forth. Absolutely one of the laziest people I've ever met.
Right.
They do not want, they literally went from running direct to they got rid of it. So we're just going to broker it out. They're going to get rid of the broker or the brokering the loads. They're going to go direct. Then they went into direct. Now they're back to brokering the loads because the one that's in there that's supposed to be doing logistics is lazy.
Right.
There's another company I used to work with all the time. They've now started doing it. They don't. They'll literally be like, "I'm not dealing with. I don't want to deal with calling truck drivers. I don't want to deal with calling truck drivers. I don't." So what do? There's a company that's in my side of the industry, the bulk industry. They have a large network of owner operators, independent carriers, and some of their own trucks and trailers, and they just call them and they give them the load, and they say,
Right.
"Look, we'll pay this much, and here you go." And they won't, they'll just go ahead and give it to them,
Right.
and then they either broker it out or they go through and they put it on their own truck,
Right.
and they take whatever it is. So you're never going to get rid of brokers, and the only thing you can hope for really is to get rid of the bad brokers. The because the ones that are doing the like everybody hates TQL, and a lot of that really happened because of that one. I think it was a lady driver. She had went through, and I think they found out that it was like either 40 or 60% of the load she kept, or they kept from her, or something like that. And that went through the internet like wildfire. It was incredible.
Right.
Which don't get me wrong, 40 to 60%. Like, come on, that's just greed. Let's
Yeah.
just be honest,
Yeah.
that's just greed. So there's
Well,
that.
and this is
You know,
where again, this is where we're talking about leadership. You need to recognize what the leaders in trucking right now, who they are, what they're actually about. Um, you know that. Yes, you can pull ATA up on Goober or Goober. Yeah, you can pull it up on Goober, folks. Um, you can. uh, you can pull
having some,
ATA up
are
on.
you having some like self thoughts there and self identification or something?
Oh, I am a big goober, man. I am the biggest goofy goober there is.
Uh,
You
I
can
had to throw
pull
the
up,
joke in there to
yeah,
get you smiling and
absolutely.
laughing, brother. Mhm.
You can pull up OIDA, you can pull up all these leaderships, and of course, Google is going to tell you all the highlights of ATA and all the highlights of OIDA and all the highlights of this and all the highlights of that. But the fact is that the leadership in trucking is non-existent. If it's not for self, it's not for the trucker. uh, we are seeing things go downhill progressively faster and faster and faster. One of the comments you and I talked about, well, one of the first days that we had a conversation was, if we don't do this now, there's not going to be a tomorrow. We firmly believe that that is not something we just are utilizing. That we firmly believe that if we don't stand up now, if there isn't real leadership in the forefront, standing nose to nose with all the stuff that's going wrong, then we aren't going to have it tomorrow. Trucking will continue to go downhill. They're going to push for the autonomous. Before you know it, every professional trucker. I love my career. I love my lifestyle. I will never change it until it's time for me to come off the road and be done. But for all
Right.
of those that, all of us that love this profession, that love what this is, and wake up to that new scene every day, and that tramping lifestyle, um, it's going to be gone. they're going to take it all. They're gonna make it so that you're not in a semi anymore. You're going to be in a six wheeler pulling from warehouse to warehouse, or from a train track to a warehouse, or whatever the case may be, because that's all the trucking you're going to
Look,
have left.
look, they'll never get rid of trucking. Okay, let's just be real honest. You're never going to get rid of trucking. Okay, and
Well,
this
you're going to see
autonomous
a
thing that
large
keeps talking.
drop. I think you're going to see
Well,
a
yeah,
large
yeah,
drop in numbers.
there's there's always yes and no. So this is one of the things, and this is one of the reasons why I say I don't really think that you're going to see so much of what it is that you're talking about. There are too many aspects of this industry that you are not going to be able to do without a driver in the seat.
Oh, I agree
Livestock,
there. Yeah,
agricultural,
yeah,
car hauling. You're not
yeah.
going to be able to do that. Reefer, yes. Dry van, yes. But the rest of them, not so much. I do not see an autonomous truck running a logging road
Right.
back in to get logs.
No,
But
no,
see,
no. And I agree.
this is where we talked about on the one episode where we were talking about the differences in the industries and how much harder certain aspects of our industry is than others.
Right.
Dry van and
Absolutely.
reefer, let's just be honest. You could literally make that all autonomous right now and be fine. And the reason being is because there's not a lot to it. It's you back into a dock, they load the trailer, it comes out, the door closes, which you can go from swing doors to all roll up doors.
Right.
And that takes care of that, to where as soon as it goes backs into the dock, the computer automatically rolls the door up. It goes through, it gets loaded, and down the road it goes.
Well,
Okay.
the only
Now,
thing I
mind you,
disagree there is the job size, the side of it, the job side of it, because yeah, I was auto carrier. You
I
were
know.
cattle hauler. I did cattle hauling before I did auto carrying. Auto carrying obviously was my long term. I did 11 years in it. Um, Eventually, your body starts to give out. Same with it. Listen, if you're 50 years in and you're still hauling cattle, God bless you. Honestly, God bless you. I don't know how the heck you do it. As an auto carrier, my back started going. Of course, I'm 6.5 feet tall, folks. If you don't know what working on an auto carrier means, believe me, you will. Um,
Being
you
5 foot is a benefit to you.
yeah, 5 foot is a benefit. Being 6'6" is not a benefit. Your body starts to break down a little bit. So for me, switching over to reefer was a smart move. It extended my time out here on the road. And
Yeah.
I think that's a lot of reefers. You're not going to see a lot more dry vans that way. You're going to see a lot more reefer that way. Uh, but it's our way to ease our way to get that last 20 years or the last 10 years, last 5 years in.
Oh, without a
And
doubt.
that's the autonomous is going to push those experienced drivers right off the road. And that's the only thing I disagree with
Right.
as far as the autonomous. Yes,
Well,
logging
I
trucks,
don't agree with it
car
because I
carriers.
don't want to see anybody lose their jobs.
Right,
Okay,
right,
let's just
right.
let me put that out there. I don't agree with the autonomous side, but
Yeah,
you know me, Matt. I'm a very open-minded
right.
individual. I look at big
Absolutely.
picture here,
Yeah,
and look, those two jobs, or those two aspects of our industry, are the two easiest to go
absolutely.
through and put as
Absolutely.
autonomous, because
Absolutely.
it's
I
lit.
don't disagree.
You can go through and GPS locate every
Yep.
door. All
Yep.
you have to do is have the shippers go through and, well, this is door one through door 64,
Yep.
and it starts one here on the south side and head north. You know what I
Right.
mean?
Yes,
And
I
they
do.
can literally GPS locate every single one to where
Right.
the truck comes in. Or a lot of them have talked, I've seen this and heard this, they're talking about drop lots.
Yeah.
It goes in, it's kind of like what they have out there on the west coast right now with the
Yep.
robots doing the carrier or the carriages and stuff like that
Yeah.
for the
Yep.
intermodal stuff.
Yep.
It's literally, that robot takes it and puts it in a yard,
Yep.
and then it puts it in its spot. It'd be the same way for the distribution centers.
Right.
The autonomous truck brings it in, it puts it in a yard. It That truck goes over, it picks up the empty trailer if it knows that it's there, because somebody in the office has said, "Yep, trailer such and such 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 is ready to go."
Right.
It goes over, it hooks to it, and down the road it goes.
Right.
And then the little robot comes over and it hooks up to it and it drags it, puts it exactly where it's supposed to be, because the robot will do the exact same movement every time.
Yep.
Boom. Human beings don't do the exact same thing every
Oh
time.
no.
We get
No.
tired, we get fatigued, we
Yeah.
get frustrated, you know, or we have other drivers that are in the way. Well,
Right.
if you take out the other drivers there that don't know how to drive, and they're you got one that's got a long nose Pete, and you got another one that's just got a little coffin sleeper Freightliner
Right.
Cascadia, so it's sticking out farther. Well, with a robot, all it's doing is dropping trailers in, so it can literally run right down along that. It knows when it hits this point, 45 out, go to this point, hit this other 45, and it'll blindside back it right in. You know what
Okay.
I mean?
Now,
So that's why I say that.
and a little devil's advocate here. Uh, they go with the autonomous truck. Okay. Let's say they do dry van, they do reefer, they take those two things off the table. It's all 100% autonomous.
Yep.
You know that the shipping costs, all that stuff is going to be rock bottom. They're going to run that for even half the rate that the lowest rate possibly is right now.
Yeah. Because you've
Does
taken
the
out the labor
does,
side.
okay? Does the consumer is the consumer going to see it, or is the
No.
manufacturer and the shipper still going to be multimillionaires and still make out
Yes.
a shitload? Well, then what the
Yes.
fuck's the sense? Pardon my French, but why are you putting autonomous trucks on the road if the consumer
Because
is
it's
not even going to see it?
because they don't care about the consumer. This is the
No,
leadership
obviously.
or lack thereof that we are talking about
That's
with inside the
that's my point.
CEOs of the manufacturers and the shippers. Like I said, with just the insurance side of it,
Yeah, yeah,
you have CEOs that will not pay their people enough money on
right.
their wages to where they can afford an insurance premium to where that if they were to hit the CEO's car, who when
Yeah,
he rolls in his Lamborghini, it's covered. This is the lack thereof of the this is there is no professionalism, there's no responsibility there, there's no accountability there.
right.
And it
Oh,
goes that
I'm
way
in
no
a
matter whether
100%
it's the
agreement. I just wanted it
well
out there
that's
in the
yeah,
open
no.
because the
No,
consumer needs
I'm
to
gonna put
know.
it out there.
Yeah, the
Yeah,
consumer
they're gonna
needs to
know.
know. Hey, listen,
Yeah.
you're all of you that see these autonomous trucks on national TV or on a news broadcast, or hey, look at the new autonomous rolling down I-20. Let me make you very well aware they're actually more dangerous than a human driver is. They are operating off of electronics. One wire breaks loose. That truck will automatically either lock down or go straight into the ditch, or worse, colliding you at 100 miles an hour or 60 miles an hour, whichever. But it's
Yeah.
going to do the same damage.
Well, if it
They
goes
are
through and that
not
wire
going to
reads
save
it that it
you
needs to accelerate, yeah.
if they push that whole agenda. Well, this is going to save money on the consumer bullshit. That's not what it's going to do. Is put more money in the shippers, into the manufacturer's pocket every single day. You're still paying the $7 for the gallon of milk. You're still going to pay the $12 for the dozen eggs. You're still going to pay the same rates that you are now. You're just making the rich even richer. These
Mm-hmm.
autonomous trucks are actually garbage. Now, do they
This
serve
is
a
all this is
purpose?
about.
Do they serve a purpose? At this moment, they really don't even need to be on the highway. We actually have enough trucking numbers to cover what needs to be covered. And the only reason, again, going back to what you said just a few minutes ago, the only reason they're being pushed is because the mega carriers out here have empty trucks sitting in their lot because they can't get qualified drivers to run them. Why is that? Because the pay is crap. They're treated like crap. They're disrespected on every basis. They're lied to about their home time. They are the professional truck driver out here that works for a mega carrier is manipulated more than any other professional truck driver on the road. And they
I
don't
know.
and if you're there for more than a year, you're lucky. If you're there 20 years, I don't know how you pulled it off. You
Well,
obviously
I can tell you
have
this.
no your ignorance is bliss kind of deal.
I can tell you this. I have a very good friend of mine, and he works for a mega carrier, and I'm not going to mention his name, but he's been there over 25 years.
Mm-hmm.
And as he says, he's got the golden handcuffs
Absolutely.
because he's got, they do that employee stock options and things like
Right.
that. He literally just got injured. And this same company, and this is how I know these mega carriers don't give two craps about their people. literally pretty good injury. And one of their policies is that if you're injured and you don't want to, they want to literally bring you all the way out and you sleep in a hotel at their home terminal.
Right.
And that is, you have to hang out there until you get healed. And you have to do light duty work there until you get healed. Instead of being home with your family, you need to go all the way halfway across the country to go do that, which is absolutely ridiculous. So, it's this is how I know. Yeah, one of the reasons why everybody around there knows him is because he's been there 25 years. He's got like 3 million miles safe driving, which he is one of the better drivers that I know
Right.
of. He is a professional. He takes it serious. But his dad was a driver, I think his brother drove for a short time if I remember right. It's kind of a trucking family, and so, I mean, I'm not going to lie, I met him because he trained me,
Right.
when I went to work there years ago. So, really good guy. But just one of those things that's how the mega carriers act.
Right.
They really don't care, you know. But to move on from that, to try to get through all of our plans here, since we've hit another one of those Elmer Fudd, rascally rabbit portions of
Right.
our podcast that we like to, the environmental side of it. Um, I want to let everybody know we are for clean skies. We are just not for dirty policies.
Absolutely.
And let's be honest here, the emissions thing that has been promised in the different, the EPA 07, the EPA 10, the GHG 14, and the GHG 17 and GHG 20. I think we're what, GHG, I think they did a 22 and we're on like 24 now or something like that, or 25. We're on like our seventh generation of emissions or whatever. If you notice, none of the emission numbers, as they say, if you listen to anything that any of the environmentalists are saying, they keep just saying that the numbers keep going up and up and up. If we are making such massive strides with all this emissions nonsense that we're putting on all these trucks that is actually not doing anything to help,
Right.
it actually is costing the carrier more money, which, when you look at it, the mega carriers don't care because, like we talked about, they run everything under warranty. They turn their trucks in at 300 to 500,000 miles. So basically, they go through, they buy the truck, they don't pay for anything to get fixed on it, other than oil changes, brakes, and tires, basically serviceable items.
Right.
That's all you're required under the warranty. The rest of it, PACCAR, uh, Daimler, or International, they all have to pay for. So the emissions go down, they pay for it.
Right.
Engine gets messed up, they pay for it. Transmission, they pay for it. So the only people that it's hurting is the small independent carriers, the mom and pops, so on and so forth. And none of it, let's just be honest, if anybody has paid any attention to the roadways, the ditches and the medians,
Right.
and how much faster the grass and the weeds are growing now over the last 3 to 5 years in
Right.
comparison in years past, you used to see maybe one, maybe two mowings,
Yep.
where you would see the DOT for that state out there mowing those ditches and medians. Now we're seeing 3 to 4 a year.
Yep.
The reason being is the amount of nitrogen that is being put into the ground.
Right.
And the way I know this is, most of your mega carriers, the reason why you don't see stacks on them, folks, for those of you that are not in the trucking industry, they're all running weed burners,
Yep.
which is an exhaust pipe that comes out the bottom and points to the ground.
Yep.
They don't stick up anymore. They point straight to the ground. Well, as that truck is going down the road and it goes into a passive regen, it's literally putting out a bunch of urea all over the ground.
Yep.
Because that's all that is in that. That's all diesel exhaust fluid
Right.
is urea with distilled water. It is basically pure water and a 32% concentrate. And what is urea mainly? Nitrogen.
Right.
What do plants need to grow? Grasses need nitrogen to grow. So as that comes out, it goes on the road. When it rains, the rain washes it off and it goes down in there. We're not, all you're doing is spreading fertilizer.
Right.
It's only like, I think, 2 molecules different than the UAN 28, urea ammonia nitrate, that gets put on corn plants for side dressing in
Right.
a 28%. It's only like 2 molecules different, if I remember right, when I looked at the difference. Because ammonia is mainly nitrogen, and then you're adding nitrogen. Urea has a nitrogen molecule in it to make it.
Right. Right.
So, yeah, the only difference is just the one that goes on to corn's got a little bit more nitrogen atoms in it than what you have with the urea, but you're still getting the nitrogen. And you're all that is cleaning out that filter and actually just putting it right back out the exhaust. So all that's happening is you're having exhaust come out. It comes out of an exhaust pipe. It hits 3 different filters. You have a DOC, a DPF, and a SCR. 3 different catalysts right there. They all hold it.
Right.
Then it goes through, and what some gases come out, and the rest of it. When it goes through and it needs to be cleaned out, that's that whole regen process that
Yeah.
goes on.
Yeah.
It's still putting all of that nastiness out. It doesn't matter that you heated it up to like 1700 degrees.
No.
The molecules are still there. It's still going into the ground. What do we
Well,
want to see?
you
We
and I
want to see
talked.
the emissions be repealed. We
Yeah.
want to
Well,
see this
absolutely.
emissions nonsense be repealed, because
Plant some
not a
damn
single
trees.
bit of this emission. Well, let's be honest here. If you want to get rid, well, see, this is the thing that they say about that. They say, well, it's not, first it was carbon dioxide.
Yeah.
So if you plant more trees, the trees, they bring in the carbon dioxide, they hang on to the carbon, they release the O2.
Right.
CO2, right? That's what carbon dioxide is.
Yeah.
Well, now they say it's the nitrogen problem. Well, now you're going through, the nitrogen's coming out, and it's going into the ground. And what doesn't go into the ground and into the plants goes into the waterways. Because not all of it stays in the ground, and not all of it gets absorbed by the grasses
No.
and the weeds and the clover and everything. Some of it goes in the waterways. Now, there's a lake that we have in my area of Ohio that has blue algae problems every year. And its intensity is based upon how much rain happens while the farmers are spreading the fertilizer, which is
Right.
like the UAN, the anhydrous ammonia, things of that nature. How much runoff is going into, because that nitrogen that's getting into the water is helping that blue algae grow.
Right.
So it's happening the same way in the rivers. It's you're not doing anything different. This is why we need to repeal a lot of this emissions nonsense, because you're not getting nothing is you're not stopping the emissions. Unfortunately, there has to be a give and a take. You're not going to be able to move 48 to 52,000 pounds of product down the road with an electric vehicle. We do not, one, we don't have the infrastructure right now. Two, we don't have the technology.
No.
It's great for your little Prius car or your little Volt, or, whatever you have that you want to drive around and you want to go get your groceries and stuff. That's fine. But the amount of energy that has to be used, one, to produce the batteries in the truck to be able to haul it. And then right now, the best we're getting is the 300 miles.
Right.
The average load does 580 miles. That's what an average load distance is in the United States. And then it takes 10 hours to do that, which now with with a diesel, you can get it there in one day. So everybody that wants to move over to electric and thinks that that's going to fix the emissions, it's not.
Well, no.
You've got just as much emissions being produced, if not more.
You just talked infrastructure. Our infrastructure is not that great in the United States as far as electrical grid. Try plugging 1,000,000 trucks in a day to recharge at least twice a day. Plug 1,000,000 trucks into that infrastructure and see what happens.
Oh, it'll never happen.
Y'all are going to go dark in a matter of minutes. The minute
It'll never happen. They go dark now.
They can't do it. They can't do it.
They can't do it now. They can't do it now. They ain't plugging trucks in.
Can you imagine 10,000 rigs? Let's reduce it. Let's say 1,000 rigs, electric autonomous, plugging in at over at LA. It'd be chaos in an hour. Chaos in an hour. You burn the whole grid out.
They struggle right now with just electricity, just trying to do what they're doing now. They don't even really have that many electric trucks over there. I don't
Right.
even think they've got any over there yet. Yeah. So
It's not suitable. It doesn't. The batteries are actually toxic. There is actually reports that these things catch on fire. It could take 3 days to cool one of those batteries down, and if one of those batteries goes, you've got to clear 2 city blocks because it's that
well, you
toxic.
can't put water on. You can't put water on the lithium. It's a special foam that has to be used to extinguish the
Yeah,
fire.
yeah.
If you add water to it, all you're doing is exacerbating the problem.
So,
It's just
ladies and
going to go up
gentlemen,
even faster
if
and even hotter.
imagine your community, your firehouse now needs twice the funding for that special foam to have because, and that's out of your pocket, folks. That's your tax
You're
money
going to
that
need
you're
two
paying.
trucks.
Yeah,
You're going to
minimum,
need two trucks. You're going to
minimum.
have to add two trucks. So now your fire department already is full with, we'll say you've got two engines, a ladder truck, and two ambulances.
Yep,
Okay. Well, actually, one tanker, one engine, one ladder, and two ambulances.
right,
We'll just say that. They don't even have a rescue truck, because we'll just say they use their engine as their rescue truck,
right,
So you go through, and now we've got to add two trucks. So now you got to put an addition on the building. Now you have to go through, you've got to add at least 8 men or
yeah,
women or both combined, whatever, 8 more people. You need to add 8 more people to because you want to have at least a 4 person crew per truck,
right.
you know. So that's now we've got payroll, and I'm sorry, people can come at me for this. If you're a firefighter and you're not being paid at least $150,000 a year, I think you're being taken advantage of, because I don't know too many people that will take off blindly and run into a burning building to save somebody. I don't know too many people that are willing to stand out in an ice storm and cut a mom and a dad and a daughter or a baby out of a upside down car when it's raining and it's 10 degrees outside.
And hey,
You know what I
hats
mean?
off to all the volunteers out there that actually do that shit
Yeah,
for free.
yeah. I'm just saying, like,
Oh
and
no,
so we're
I agree. You're pumping up. You're pumping every. I mean, you're talking every community, ocean to ocean, north to south, having to upgrade. You're not. This push is not going to happen.
Well,
There's
where's
too
the tax
much
money coming
involved.
from?
You and me.
People are already where's that money coming from? Most everybody right now, I think, what was the last time I heard? 90, it's like either 90 or 95% of the people out there don't have $1,000 in their checking account.
At minimum, and only 30% pay taxes, or 40%.
And,
I think 40.
well, okay, where's this money coming from? Because if you say you're going to tax the people more, if they ain't even got $1,000 in their bank account, where's the money going? Where's
It
it
ain't
coming
gonna be.
from?
It ain't gonna be from the government. The government's sending $1 trillion over for the transvestites in Timbuktu, Iowa.
Yeah, I don't know where it's at. So you're not going to get it there. One, we don't have the infrastructure to charge them. Two, we
Right,
don't have the infrastructure to protect the citizenry if one of those lithium batteries were to get wet
right,
and
right,
explode or catch fire or whatever. So you don't even have the manpower right now, anyways.
right.
And I don't even know if they have the production capabilities for the foam to produce that much foam.
I don't think so.
You know what I'm saying? Like,
Well,
there's so many
the
things.
one video that they were talking to the chief on, that I did see, was an electronic truck. It went up in smoke. It took them 3 days, which in a fire department that's 2 shifts a day, 6 shifts to get that truck cool enough with water and foam in order to be able to do anything with. And they had already evacuated, I believe, either evacuated or in the process of evacuating 2 city blocks where that truck was at, because they knew if that battery went, it was in the air, it was airborne.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
we have major, and again, this all goes back to real leadership inside the trucking community. Leadership that's going to bring the trucking community and the communities that we serve back together again. Uh, it, everybody needs to understand that you're, a lot of things are being used just to get a reaction out of you. It's not for your benefit, it's for their benefit. Pay
It's
attention
all
to
for
the
money.
Yeah, pay attention to the smoke screens. Look past the horizon at what their agenda is. Look at this stuff. Look into Do some background research. If like you were talking about with the broker transparency and the broker that's trying to push this whole thing, and to find out, we Laura just figured it out the other day. This broker isn't even legit anymore, but he's having people sign off on documents giving up their bank accounts and routing numbers, and this is the only way you're going to be able to work and do this. Okay, well, if you're not legal,
Yeah, if your
why am
authority's
I giving you
revoked,
my
yeah,
why am I giving you my banking information if you're not even legal? The problem is they don't know he's illegal because he's playing the game very well. So, know the real leadership. Listen, I'm not perfect. Cupcake's not perfect. Nobody in our group is 100% perfect. But we didn't draw a line in the sand. We drew a line in the quick concrete that's already dry already. And that line is where we stand. You can erase a line in the sand and change it. Most leadership in this country has done it, whether it be trucking or whether it be something else. They erase a line, they move forward, they draw another one. Or they back up and they draw a line and erase the one before it. Ours is in quickcrete, it's in concrete, it's not going nowhere. This is where we stand. The trucking community is what we believe in. The communities that we serve are what we believe in. Uh, we got a lot of big things coming down the line.
the one
Cupcake,
last thing I want to talk about,
yeah,
though,
go
real
for it.
quick, is that we have on, we were talking about all our plans here. We are putting together a database for small carriers.
Right.
We have talked with a lot of carriers, and one of the constant complaints that a lot of the small carriers have, and this is carriers of, I would say, between 50 to 75 trucks or less,
Hmm.
finding good quality employees or truckers to come drive for them.
Right.
Guys and gals that actually, they care about what they do, they care about how they look, they care about how they act. They don't just come out here and act like a fool. They hold themselves in a professional manner at all times.
Right.
They actually know how to operate a rig, and they do it safely, and they take pride in that.
Right.
And we are developing a database to where that we are going to offer for free. We are going to offer a database for the small carriers to come on and have a way. It's going to kind of be like a match.com, if you will,
Yeah,
except
basically.
for it'll be love at first sight between carrier and trucker, is
There
what
you
it's
go.
going to be.
There you go.
And it's going to be something to where the good quality drivers, you know, and this isn't for, and I'm not saying that, you've got to been driving for 25 years to be a good quality truck driver. You know, this is going to
All you
be
got to
where
do is be
we
professional.
are going to, yeah, we're going to vet you. And when I say we, I'm talking about, all of the people that we have on the board right now that we consider professional, accountable, responsible people
Right.
that know what's going on. We know what we need to do. We know what small carriers are looking for because we've talked with them, and we're going to vet you. You will go through, if you are a trucker, you're going to go through an application process.
Right.
You're going to talk to every one of us, and then we're going to put you on a list, no different than we are the carriers, and we're going to have a database, because there are going to be some carriers that might be pneumatics. That might be all they do, or they might only do end dump, or they might only do reefer, or whatever the case is, or they might, and we all know that we have, hazmat carriers, we have all that stuff. So
Right.
we're going to have, and we're going to we're going to figure out a way to go through and take those truckers that have those skill sets. Like, maybe you've been doing a hazmat tanker for the last 7 years, and you've had no accidents. You're like a 95% on time delivery.
Right.
Um, you don't have a whole lot of breakdowns because you're catching the stuff ahead of time when you're doing your pre-trip or your post-trip. To where we're gonna because we'll know talking with you whether or
Right.
not if you're blowing smoke up our skirts or not, and
Absolutely.
we're going to use this as like a match.com, if you will, but it's going to be free for the carriers, matching up good quality truckers for the small carriers,
Right.
so that when time comes, they're not struggling as bad to find good quality talent, because that's one of the things a lot of them have troubles with right now is
Right.
finding good quality talent. And the thing of it is, though, is this also like the carriers, we're going to vet them too. So don't think that you're going to be able to get good quality talent as a carrier and pay 32 cents a mile.
Right.
That's not going to happen either.
Right.
A good quality carrier, they know how to take care of their truckers. You know, they're not sitting there trying to take advantage of you. You're not sitting there giving them junk equipment to run, because that's one of the worst things that you can do for a truck driver. That's almost like an immediate smack in the face is to give them some old ragged out, it ain't got to be a brand new truck, but don't
It's
give
going to
them
be
out a
taken
ragged out
care of.
piece of equip.
Right.
Yeah, your maintenance plans are good, and so on and so forth. So, I think with that though, we probably ought to end this. We've been going for another almost 2 hours here, but that's most of the plans of what we've got in mind for.
And there's a lot more. And believe me, there's a lot more. Ladies, we're looking at you too. We're looking at your safety out here. We have some programs that we're working on. One in particular. And again, come by and see us in March. I know it's a little ways off, but we will be at Matt's booth 30286, I believe. We'll be right down there by the cafeteria. We're already all set. We're getting set up. The booth is ours. Don't be afraid to come over and ask us some questions. We have some big things that are going to be at Matt's to be announced much later down the road. But listen, our website, www.wethefopt.org. Our email is on there. Don't be afraid to hit us up on an email. One of us will get back to you. We're all watching the email for the most part. If one of us isn't, the other one is. We have a phone number on there. We will try to find a way where all of us are a little more accessible on the phone. So if you have questions, you feel free to ask. Don't be afraid to reach out. We are literally about the trucking community. We are about the communities that we serve. This is not just some run of the mill thing. Again, from episode 1, from episode 2, episode 3, we are self funded. Okay, that means that we are building this on our own. We are not asking you for membership dues. We're not asking you for membership fees. Um, we may put out later down the road after we get the foundation built for, if you feel like you believe in us, you can donate, but or whatever the case may be. But we are building this. We're not asking you to build this for us. We are building this. We won't be
Yeah, there
accepting
ain't no t-shirt
donations.
sales over here.
Yeah, we're not selling T-shirts, and the day that we do, it's because we actually want you to have something that actually has meaning behind it, not just some random design off the computer that we slapped on a T-shirt to sell you for $30 that you're going to cut into rags and use to check your dipstick. Yeah, this is going to have meaning. If it doesn't have meaning, we're not doing it. So
Yep.
stay tuned, folks. We got a lot to go. We got a long ways to go. We have some people coming up. I hope to have Pablo or Laura or even Lily in here for our next episode. I'm kind of hoping we can get Pablo in here, to be honest. Uh, but, every one of them for the next few episodes we'll have in here, get to introduce you to them. I'm going to shut up and let them have the floor. Hey, I was good. Hey, I was good for 40. I watched the clock. I was good for 40 minutes. I let you talk, and I shut my mouth and I just nodded for 40 minutes. I did good. I'm getting better.
Yes, you did. Yes, you did. I just got to giggle, man, because we joke about this so much.
I'm a big talker, guys. I promote, I
Yeah.
push, I pump positivity. I know there's some negative stuff I put out there, but it's not
Yeah.
negative if it's the truth. Um, Stand by, guys. Truckers, follow us. We are on TikTok. We're on Facebook. We're on X,
Instagram,
Instagram. We
X,
are we are
Spotify,
yeah we
YouTube.
Spotify and YouTube. Listen, we are everywhere, guys. Don't be afraid to come check us out. You know, I know we chase some rabbits. We have some fun. Stand by for episode 5. We look forward to seeing y'all again.
All right, buddy. I'll talk to you later, man.
I'll talk to you later.
Bye. Thanks for rolling with us on the new Trucking Standard, brought to you by the Federation of Professional Truckers. From our seats to the nation we serve, stay safe out there and keep on trucking.